Want to do some meditation? Because I'm not going to go at the same pace. As you may have noticed, at the end of every chapter, the Dalai Lama has like some meditations. They're quite nicely, they're like suggestions really, like something to analyze, to wrap your mind around. But actually it's important to call it suggestions because of course you should take it further from there. Like, is this true in this situation, in that situation? How does it happen? To come and recognize it, that's basically the first step. And then what this is a, well, as you may know, it's an analytical meditation. The meditations described here are all analytical meditations. Of course, there are many other types of meditation. We did one in the morning, just a brief one on the breathing. But this I feel you can do at home easily, so you know briefly how to do it. We may have meditation groups, you can do those at home. But the analytical meditation, of course, you need to know what to analyze. And also those are just course kind of instructions. I don't want to be talking all the time. And of course, you should be the one doing the talking. That is like do the thinking on your own. So it's just guided here. But in the end, I don't know your experiences. I don't know how your mind works. You're the only person who, well, you're one of the only people who know exactly. Maybe a Buddha would know, or a Buddha would know. But the point is that these are suggestions, and then you take it from there and check. How do you get from A, that is misperception of reality, to X, Y, and Z, which is acting in a particular way. So we go through this here together, and then you have the chance, or you have some idea how it's done, and you take it home if you can, and do it at home. But one thing that is quite important, and I sometimes forget to say it, and then it's awkward to say it in a meditation, because that's not the time to explain it, but I previously talked about the analysis takes place with an intellectual mind. Okay, it's not the mind that controls our emotions. Let's put it that way. Okay, so more on an emotional level doesn't mean the mind that we want to generate is an emotion itself. It's a mind that understands something, and then that leads to certain emotions and to certain actions. When I say, for instance, with death, I know intellectually I may die, but deeper within, my mind believes, no, I won't die, because this hasn't happened to me yesterday and not the day before yesterday, and anyway I'm busy, I've got plans, so I'm not going to die. It doesn't really put it into those words, because that would mean it's much coarser, but that's the sense I get of that mind, right? That's the mind kind of like, it's called subtle in Tibetan. In Tibetan, the word subtle, in English, well, that's the translation that's used, means usually it's harder to recognize. Something that is coarser, you can relatively easily understand or recognize. If it's subtler, it's harder to recognize. That's why it's called subtler. So it's harder to recognize that type of mind. It's easier to be aware of our intellectual mind that is just more at the surface, if you like. And that could be correct about things, but on that deeper level, on that subtler level, it may be believing we won't die, as an example, and that controls all my actions. That controls my other actions. That controls my emotions. That kind of sense of reality, which is where we like to get. That's the level we like to get our understanding. We like to get to that level. So, for instance, when we think about that, the attractiveness or the pleasantness of an object, actually it's the mind that experiences it as attractive, as pleasant, a very subjective experience, but then we project that attractiveness onto the object, as in like, first we name it such, and then we believe we name it such because it already is attractive. Okay, that's how it works. So when we understand that this is a projection by the mind, projecting that attractiveness or positive quality onto the object as if it came just from the side of the object and I just saw it the way it was. When we understand that, when we analyze this and we come after some analysis, we come to some kind of conclusion. They describe it as like a feeling, like, yeah, or maybe, oh no. But hopefully, yeah, that makes sense, right? Okay, I can see that. That makes sense to me. And at some point that arises, and I don't know exactly when, so I just say it believing that at this point you should have come to some kind of conclusion. Then I ask you, just focus on that feeling. Just focus on whatever feeling, whatever conclusion you've come to. Now focus on it. So previously you were analyzing, you were doing analytical meditation. Now you're doing what's called one-pointed or stabilizing meditation. The purpose of that is now to allow this to sink deeper onto a more emotional level, or more on a level that can affect your emotions. So that next time you see something attractive, you go, wait a minute, let's not be fooled by that. Is this really going to give me greater happiness? Is this person, right? So it should affect our actions. It should affect our actions, but it cannot as long as it doesn't go to. And that's the hardest part, to bring it to that level. And the means to do so is to just focus and kind of almost like allow this to sink into the heart, soak into, I don't know how to put it into words because it's not literally soaking into your heart. You're suddenly like totally wet or whatever. I mean, it's just a matter of language, but what I mean is to internalize it. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to describe all that because it'd be a lot of talking otherwise, but just to get those two parts of the meditation. Actually, 3 parts. The first part is breathing. So just let go of any disruptive thoughts, to settle the mind in a calm and focused state. Then we'll do the analysis very gently. We'll go through the analysis. And once we're done with that, we just focus single-pointedly on whatever conclusion we've come to and allow this to go deeper. Okay? All right. So let's do whatever we've talked about previously. We'll now do it in the form of a meditation. direct your attention to yourself. See whether you can get a sense of your I. Of your own self. Do you have a sense that the I may even be located somewhere in your body? Maybe in your head, your chest or your belly. Is there a clear sense of an I that owns and controls your mind and body? An I that owns your possessions. That is the parent of your children, the sibling of your brother or sister. An I that is male or female. is there also a clear sense of distinction between I and others. Try to recognize the sense that your happiness and the happiness of your family seeming more important than the happiness of strangers. And what happens when you encounter another person who makes you feel really good? Your mind feels good, understood, and calm in their presence. Do you get a sense that that pleasantness is within that other person? Try to get in touch with your own attachment mind that identifies the other person with pleasure. And doesn't want to be separate, away from that person. See whether this attachment may give rise to other emotions such as jealousy or even aversion. Towards those who may threaten your object of attachment. Including those who may threaten your happiness. So now, to end this meditation, spend a few moments just focusing on whatever conclusion you have come to with regard to your sense of self, giving rise to these other states of mind just described. unfortunately, those meditations are a little harder than just good old breathing. The problem with this is that we may just not want to do it. Just go back to breathing because it's so much easier, and right away we may feel some relief from stress, etc. This is why I believe, although they're so important, these meditations, so highly effective, but to be able to do them more effectively, it's important to first calm the mind to such a degree that it's not so full, because it seems like you're just adding more and more and more, and it's not really doing anything. And sometimes it may just be too much to sit down and meditate, and it's achy here and achy there. What you could also do as an alternative, and that's what we were taught to do when we read texts, we were asked to read a text, a particular part of the text, and then just spend a few moments, even with your eyes open, even like lying in a position that is comfortable without falling asleep. Just spend a few moments, think about it, right? Or go about other activities and think about it at the same time, so that we don't find ourselves in the end like forcing ourselves to sit there and find it difficult and kind of don't want to do it. So there may be a little bit of that resistance. So actually, once you get over that, you get used to it, you do it a few times, you get used to it, and that's it. But if in the meantime, maybe you can't make the time or whatever, to take this and think about it a few moments, maybe take a passage a day, read a paragraph a day, and think about it for a few hours a day, okay? Once it's made sense to you, then think about it. These are actually better changes than taking every month you have one day of just total intensive, okay? It may actually be more effective if every day just take a few passages, like a few words, and spend a few moments just analyzing them. If you do that in the morning, let's say 15 minutes, 10 minutes, it doesn't have to be long, and throughout the day you go back to it. You check. The meditation we just did. Okay, I'm noticing I have resentment. But when you have the resentment, then you go back. Where is the attachment? Because if there's resentment, there's attachment. My attachment to what? Myself? For instance, when we're insulted. I think insult is a good